Before we begin, I want to share a resource that can make your divorce process far easier and much less stressful. It's Hello Divorce. Hello Divorce gives you a guided, step-by-step path through your divorce with clear instructions, simple online tools, and support from real legal and coaching professionals when you need it. You get help with paperwork, access to affordable legal advice, and a process that is designed to save you money, reduce conflict, and keep you informed every step of the way. They've created a special page just for Divorce and Beyond listeners. Visit hellodivorce.com/Susan to explore their plans, pricing, and resources so you can see exactly what fits your situation. If you want a clearer, calmer, more empowered way to move through your divorce, start at hellodivorce.com/Susan. Welcome to Divorce and Beyond, a podcast about navigating divorce and what comes next. I'm Susan Guthrie. I'm a divorce attorney and mediator, and for more than 3 decades, I've helped people navigate divorce with clarity, strategy, and compassion. Each episode offers practical insight into the legal, emotional, and life decisions that shape your future. So let's get started. Welcome back, listeners, to Divorce and Beyond. Today, we're going to talk about gray divorce again because it really is one of the fastest growing divorce trends, and yet it's one of the least talked about experiences, and we're trying to change that. It is not just the end of a marriage. It is the unraveling of decades of shared life, identity, routines, and expectations. And today's guest understands that deeply. I met Maryjane Sweet when we were both featured on the Oprah podcast in the episode focused on gray divorce. Maryjane appeared alongside her adult daughter, and their conversation was, for me, one of the most moving moments of that show. What stood out was not just Maryjane's story, but the way she moved through divorce with intention, emotional awareness, and integrity, knowing her daughters were watching. Maryjane brings a lifetime of experience in wellness, mindfulness, and emotional regulation, and she now uses that lived experience to support women navigating gray divorce as a divorce coach. This is not a conversation about quick fixes or silver bullets. It's a conversation about what gray divorce really takes and what it can give back on the other side. If you are facing a gray divorce, supporting someone who is, or simply trying to understand this chapter of life more clearly, this conversation is for you. So let's get started. Maryjane, I am so happy to have you here. This is so exciting, especially because we get to do it in person again.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I can imagine many of my listeners and today viewers are saying, she looks awfully familiar. And I want to tell you all, you're right. Maryjane is familiar to you and me. We met when recently we were both on the Oprah podcast. And I'm so excited that I found you after, and here we are together.
Well, I'm thrilled. I was hoping at the end of the Oprah podcast that somehow our paths would cross. So this is great.
Well, you and your daughter, you were there with your adult daughter, and I told you afterwards, I thought you two really were one of the highlights of that show. Your daughter especially, you both were very eloquent and shared a lot of wonderful insights, but your daughter was just so touched and inspiring about how you inspired her on how you went through the divorce. So I definitely want to talk about that. For those out there who are listening, the Oprah podcast was about gray divorce and the rather dramatic rise in gray divorce in both the United States and really around the world, but definitely in the US. And turns out you are a gray divorce coach. So tell me about how that came about.
Well, I think I have the lived experience of
There
great
you
divorce. So it came about in that way. And I've just had a lifetime of teaching and living well-being tools, mindfulness, mindset work. I have been a mindfulness and meditation instructor, a yoga instructor. I have a master's in organizational behavior, and so have been in executive coaching positions where we've talked about change management and leadership and culture change. I just pivoted because I saw a real need for women that were going through gray divorce, and that all of these tools were very helpful for me. They were not a silver bullet to get through it and easily, but they helped. And so I just decided to pivot in that direction and really help walk alongside these women that are trying to get through this transition.
I think there's something to that the lived experience really changes how we approach things, even when we've been dealing with a certain topic or tools, as you were talking about. I had been a divorce attorney for about 15 years, and then I got divorced.
Yes.
Totally changed my approach to divorce when I went through it myself. Then I met my current husband, who had children, young children, became a stepmom. Totally changed my approach to, handling matters with conflict and custody matters and all that. So, but you shared on the Oprah podcast that, at first it was a pretty devastating occurrence in your life, and your tools didn't pop into place right away. It wasn't automatic.
Right. It was not automatic. I would say it felt like the floor, just dropped out underneath me when the announcement was made. And for the first, I think, few months, you're just spiraling a little bit.
Yeah.
And in every way it touches, there's a reason that it is the second biggest stressor after the death of a child.
Right.
And then you layer on a gray divorce, which is decades of a life created with someone else that is no longer. So it is a big stressor, and it's a domino effect. You think it's just sort of the two of you that are getting divorced, but in fact, it impacts relationships in every way. You are known with someone else, with friends and family and in-laws. So that all is impacted, and they're all dealing with it too. So they're dealing with the impact of the divorce, and you need to help them get through it while you're helping yourself.
Well, you're trying to help yourself, right?
While you're trying to help yourself. So relationally, it impacts. Financially, it impacts in a major way. For most women, too. I think the lifestyle decreases by 43%, I think is what they say.
I know.
So financially, I was pretty scared as to what life would look like. I didn't have the earning potential because I'm later in life. And so yet I needed to earn money and figure out how I was going to do this. I think it impacts physically. A lot of women, including myself, needed to sell homes.
Yes.
And move. So your physical environment is different often. I had just had a major surgery 2 weeks before the announcement that my husband wanted to leave. And so I physically was also changed. So I needed to figure out how there was just so much change. And then just emotionally, you run into triggers all the time. So one day you think you're doing really well, and then the next day something happens, at the grocery store, and you thought you were doing better than you actually are. So it's just, I would like to just say it's kind of a traumatic time.
Of course.
And you're just trying to figure it out.
It's real trauma.
It is real trauma.
And for you, which I hear from so many clients, I've had a lot of clients over the years who have gotten divorced 20, 30 years into it. And, you have two different pools. You have the ones who I think the pool you were in, I think, where it was a surprise out of the blue, a bit of a shock, we'll call that a trauma. Yes. And then we have the other side of the fence where someone has decided that divorce is in their future. And you almost universally, they have been thinking about it for a good long time. I think the average is like 4 years.
Yes.
But I've talked to people where it was even much longer than that. But for both sides, after that immediate, like, okay, this is happening, whether you're the teller or the receiver of that information, there's almost just a full stop.
Yes.
Well, the information sinks in. Mm-hmm. And for many of my clients and people that I've spoken to, it's just hard to get out of bed some days.
Right. So, Susan, you bring up such a good point because you're exactly right. Someone gave me a writing one time. It was called The Fear of Transformation. And it talked about life being a series of trapeze swings or trapeze bars.
Okay.
And I love this image, and I've carried it with me in transition because a lot of us are swinging along on a trapeze bar that we're really familiar with. And let's say that is the decades-long marriage.
Sure. 20 years of back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. You know the rhythm. You know the answers. You know what to expect. It's predictable. And then sometimes we decide to let go of that. Just like you said, some women have thought about this, or men have thought about this, and they decide it's best to get a divorce. Some people are flung off of that bar. I was one of those.
Hand slip.
Yes, hand slip. But no matter what, you go into this, like what I would call liminal space, the space in between letting go of that bar, getting, kicked off that bar, and the new bar you can't even see yet. So we're all in that space. And what do you do in that space? It's a tough space to be. We can talk about that, but I do believe there are tools that help us get through that. And I think you were saying, like, okay, so yes, it was devastating for me at first.
Right.
And what kind of things? I knew the tools. I've been practicing these things. I've been speaking on these things. Yet when it happened, I had to kind of like reassess for a minute.
You're bouncing in that net, right?
Yes.
You're bouncing in the trapeze net.
Absolutely.
Not realizing it was made up of maybe your tools.
Right. It was made up of the tools. So eventually I got around to say, like, okay, there has to be a little bit of an easier way to navigate this. So, it started with my nervous system was on overdrive. And as you've spoken on several podcasts, when you're on high alert, you can't think well.
So, or at all.
Yeah, you just can't. You just can't. So I knew I had to get safety in my body and safety in other ways. So I really concentrated on 5 things at first, which was, it sounds pretty simple, but it really wasn't. It was eating. It was drinking, and not wine, but just hydrating. It was sleeping and moving and connecting with others. And I say this because for some people, eating's hard. I mean, I was just kind of eating. I mean, I just was like drinking smoothies and Ensures and anything that would get calories in.
Right.
For me, that's the way my body was handling the stress. Even in sleep, like I've always been a good sleeper, but I couldn't sleep. And if I can't sleep, the cortisol's spiking, my body's in high alert. So I went to the doctor and was like, I need some help in this period of time to be able to sleep. Movement, when they talk about trauma, like it's stored energy in the body that has nowhere to go.
It really is.
So I always worked out, but I was in really good shape, and I would go to like boxing classes, like get it out.
I did the same thing. Boxing classes, very specifically.
Yes.
Highly recommend.
Highly recommend. And then connection is so important because you're losing that connection with your own, even your own family is looking different. And so when we look at even the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety and security, and then it's belonging and connection right after that.
Yeah.
So the importance of continually connecting with others and making happen on a daily basis, because a lot of times you want to just isolate.
Oh, sure. Well, you've lost that, you're talking about connection, but you've lost that mainstay relationship that right up until, at least in your case, right, had been the mainstay relationship in your life for decades.
Yes.
And now suddenly you don't turn and tell that person a funny story anymore, or you don't pick up the phone to ask them to do something on the way home from work, or it's just like a dead stop and your life is suddenly so different.
Yes. And I think what you're talking about, grief, there's a lot of loss.
Yes.
Just a tremendous amount of loss, no matter if you wanted it or it was chosen for you. So much around you looks differently. And it's the phone call that you can't make. It's some of the big decisions that you have to make that you used to make with someone, and all of a sudden you're making those on your own.
We are going to take a quick break, but stay right here. In part 2 of this conversation, Maryjane and I talk about how to move forward when gray divorce leaves you in that in-between space, the rituals that help process your grief, and how small daily choices can restore a sense of control and hope when everything feels uncertain. You do not want to miss what comes next, so stick around and we'll be right back. Listeners, as a bit of a product junkie myself, I am so excited to announce that we have partnered with Blue Mercury, which is your one-stop destination for luxury skincare, makeup, hair care, fragrance, and more, all thoughtfully curated and backed by their expert service. And because you are listening today, Blue Mercury is offering 15% off your first order when you use the special link in our show notes. It's their way of saying thanks for being a part of the Divorce and Beyond family. So just click the link in the show notes, shop your favorites, and enjoy the 15% discount that will be automatically applied to that first purchase. That's 15% off your first order at bluemercury.com. Check your show notes to claim it now.
For me, that grief piece, I had to put a lot of rituals around it because I just felt like that was an important piece of letting go.
Yeah.
Even around, the things about no one tells you, when do you take your wedding rings off? And
Oh, yes.
how do you do that? It's
And
kind
what
of
do you
a
do
big
with
deal.
them when you
And then
do?
What do you do? So can you develop, I did a ritual around that. Or can you, when you leave your home, if it's a home that you've lived in for decades even, what do you do with the kids and yourself to make that kind of a ritual? My kids and I went around to every room, and this house had been in our family. It was the last house that my dad built.
Oh, gosh.
And so we went around to every room and just wrote down all the memories in each room, and we laughed and we cried, but it created a sense of closure.
Yeah. So you put
So-
almost a ceremony
Yeah.
around that, which is, it's beautiful and honors the loss, but also honors all the happy times that you had there. I love that idea for, those who are listening. What a beautiful way to give tribute, because it is, and maybe this is, indicative of the trauma, but one of the things that you feel through this period of time is just loss after loss. And there comes a time, I think, when you start seeing that doors are opening to new things. But initially, it just feels like loss after loss.
It sure does. It does feel like loss after loss. And I think you have to go through that. For me, I didn't want to bury it. I really wanted to feel it all.
Yeah.
And just continue to move forward. And I love what you said about there are these glimmers of hope.
Mm-hmm.
And they happen, pretty quickly if you're looking for them.
Awareness that they're coming is one of the ways you start to know that, right? I've had many other guests on the other side of divorce, or in the beyond, as I like to call it, right? But say, as I look back now, I see that opportunities, I always say divorce is an opportunity, to create a new future, one that suits you and works for you, that you can put intentional thought and direction into. But it's very hard to see that as you're feeling loss after loss. But when you know that they're coming, sometimes I think it's easier to see.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I also did to help myself, because there was so much change in my life, was to create, I always had a morning ritual, but it got much more lengthy. Like I started, I think
Days took a little longer to get going.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was an hour and a half early in the morning. And one of the things I think I mentioned on Oprah's podcast was that I woke up for the first few months and wrote 100 gratitudes.
Yes.
Sounds kind of crazy.
100 is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But I think, one, I knew I needed to get my brain working for me. So when you're in survival mode, you're looking for threat, and you're looking, you can't help yourself but look for the negativity. Like, all of this is happening. You can get into the victim mode pretty quickly. And so I didn't want to do that. So I was really working with my brain to start saying, like, okay, if I write down all these positives, that means tomorrow I have to as well. So I'm going to look for those glimmers.
Right.
And they became more apparent and more apparent and more apparent. That morning routine, that structure was so helpful for me, whether it was journaling, writing the gratitudes. Again, I do a lot of meditation and mindfulness work. and I couldn't sit in silence. That was so hard for me, and I always used to, but my brain would just take off down rabbit holes.
Right.
So I did a lot of guided meditation. I prayed. I mean, I just did everything that I could to help me launch my day, and then, go into all the things that needed to get done to make this divorce happen.
One of the things you say that, and you've mentioned your daughters, and one of your daughters was there with you on Oprah, and you mentioned on that show that there came a realization or, a part of your thinking about how you were going to get through divorce, through this experience, in light of the fact that you had two wonderful young women watching how you were going to do it. And I think that was so wonderful about when your daughter said how inspired she was by your strength and your grace in managing what she also clearly knew had been a very difficult time for you. And I'm wondering because so many parents, and your daughters are adults, so I want to mention that. And people think as your child is an adult, divorce does not impact them. I've heard that from many clients. Yet, whether they're 3, they're 13, or they're 23, or 33, or 53, they are seeing you go through this, one of the most important people in their lives. And they're also learning from how you go through that. And so I'm just wondering, when that came to you and how that on a day maybe when you didn't want to get out of bed or you didn't want to write 100 gratitudes, wondering how your daughters inspired you or your knowledge that they were watching.
Yes, it's interesting in the way that you phrased that. Something just hit me. They were a real gift.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't watching, I'm not sure I would have come up with this, right? So they were watching, and one thing that I really valued in my life is being a mom and family, and helping them launch into joyful, happy people with meaning and purpose. And so I knew they were launched as adults. I mean, they were 21 and 24 at the time. Yet this was a real opportunity for me to show them somebody that was very close to them in their life going through a really hard thing. And I thought, okay, this could be one of my final big gifts to them, that you can go through hard things and do it with integrity and be the person that I want to show up in the world being. And I didn't want the divorce and a lot of the feelings that come with that to override who I was and how I wanted to be. And I wanted them to see that. They were going to see me, cry and go through
Inevitable,
it all.
Right?
Inevitably. But it became the sieve through which I put every decision, whether I wrote a particular email or said particular words. If I had not had the intention of going through this with my integrity, it would have looked a lot differently. I will say that, because I decided pretty early on, this is what I wanted it to look like. So every time I question it, am I acting within that? And that really helped me navigate all of that.
I think that's such an amazing filter for a parent who's going through divorce, or really anyone, because yes, you had your daughters who were obviously there watching, but you've mentioned earlier, this type of divorce especially impacts every member of the family, the friend group, the extended families, the neighbors. I mean, It's amazing how many people, the bartender at the restaurant you and your spouse used to go to all the time. I mean, it really impacts everyone, and how you walk through it. Can't control how the other person walks through it, but how you walk through it is a model to really everyone.
I think you're right. You feel as if a lot of power and choice is taken away. Again, whether you choose it or you don't, there's just a lot of unknowns, yet you do have control and you do have power over a lot more than we think. And so exactly, as far as, it's so funny, like the bartender, when it first happens,
it happens.
You don't realize that how many situations it's going to impact. You kind of walk around the world. I was always so shocked, like, oh, here it is again. Here it is again. And you have a lot of opportunity to choose differently. Choose the way you want to show up, or not. And I guess it's just something to think through. Let's just say that
Yeah.
at the beginning when it all happens, because that's not what you're thinking. You're just trying to get through it and then mark off all the tasks and probably go into hyperdrive, like with all the things you need to do.
So many things.
So many things.
So many decisions. I mean, divorce, somebody said, divorce is one big decision, whether you're going to get divorced or not. And I was like, oh God, that is just the first decision.
Right.
There are so many decisions that need to be made. And it's about things about the divorce itself, who's going to get what, who's going to go where. But it's also decisions now about a future that for decades has perhaps looked one way, or at least had form to
Absolutely.
it. And suddenly, one of my clients once described it as a big black hole.
Oh, perfect.
It's just a big black hole. And it's scary. Right?
It's so scary.
And I've always thought of it as, but I'm on the other side, way on the other side, decades on the other side. And I'm like, oh, it's exciting. You get to pick where you want to live. You get to, not worry. People always talk about not having to share the remote control. I mean, all these things but in the moment, it's a big black hole.
It is. It's a big black hole. And I think we as humans don't do real well
with big black holes.
Black holes.
Right.
And so how do you navigate that big black hole? And how do you have trust that something is coming? You're not going to remain there, but you kind of have to hang out there for a while.
Right.
But there's wisdom in that. On the other side, it's easy to say, but I suppose you go through enough black holes in your life, you realize that the storm passes. And if you can hold on long enough and learn, there's a lot to be learned in the black hole. There's just patience and, again, wisdom. You're not really starting over because you're starting over with incredible amounts of wisdom behind you. And you have to keep looking forward. I think that's one thing to talk about here, because it's easy to get stuck. After I went through all of this, I was facilitating divorce groups. I just saw, there's a lot of invitations to stay stuck.
Oh, yes.
In rumination and looking at the past, and perhaps it's how wronged you were. Perhaps it's maybe I didn't make the right decision to getting divorced. And you can live in there for years.
I've had people, I've told the story before, went to a cocktail party. When you're a divorce attorney and people hear that at a cocktail party, it is an invitation to hear their divorce story.
Yes.
But one lady told me her story, and it was replete with all of the horrible things her ex had done to her and what a jerk he was. And then she mentioned it had been 26 years since they had been divorced.
Wow.
And she was still living in it. So yes,
Yeah.
people can live in it. But I imagine, and this is probably one of the gifts you bring to your clients when you're working with them, is helping them if they're in that, I always call it the divorce limbo.
Yes.
Where you're not married anymore, but you're not divorced, and you're in that space of what is anything going to look like? What do I take from the past that was good? What can I leave behind? And what do I even want? Like I always say that future is a gift you get to give yourself and make decisions, but nobody knows what they want anymore.
Right. That is true. And often I think when all of this happens, it takes a second to know what you want, right? Yeah. Gray divorce is a little bit different, I think, too, because we don't have the runway.
No.
When you're 30 getting divorced or 40, you can hang out in that space of kind of looking at the past, not really knowing what you want. And you have, again, the invitation to stay there for a while and then move on. But I think in gray divorce, there's not as much runway of life left. So in my work with women, one of my big motivators is, all right, let's keep reaching for that next trapeze bar because it's going to be great. Like, let's prepare for that and keep the momentum going, moving forward, not looking back. Again, we can really, in divorce, we're really either anxious about the future or we're kind of like looking at the past and either regretting it, ruminating about it. And generally the present's pretty neutral. So how do we stay in the present, get prepared for the future? How do we, time it gets more and more important as we get older that we realize that we don't have as much time as we did. So let's let's move on to the next chapter and go grab it. It's there for you. Even if you don't know exactly what you want, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel?
I bet people out there listening are like, well, better than I feel right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's, I remember even though my own divorce was years and years and years ago, I remember waking up many days where you're just like, is this feeling ever going to stop?
Oh, I think that's the biggest question that I hear too. Is it ever going to stop?
Yeah.
And so, yes.
I was going to
you
say,
know.
you're well on the other side now.
Yes.
A couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's been about 5 years.
5 years.
Mm-hmm. And I can't believe my life. I mean, I just can't. I could have never predicted it. I think as you move away from what was, you realize a lot of things. Sometimes, you feel like you're that idea of a frog in boiling water.
Yes.
And so you didn't know the water you were in. And when you get to the other side, you start noticing some things about yourself and some things about how you were in that marriage that maybe weren't so positive. And so there's a sense of, for me, this amazing sense of freedom. There's an amazing sense of opportunity and possibility. People have come into my life that I just never could have dreamed would have walked in, you being one of them.
Right. Oprah being another, right?
Oprah being another. My girls have learned so much. Actually, at this point, I see it so much as a gift. The divorce was a gift to me. And I think to my daughters too, in a way that they will navigate their lives. So there are good things. It takes a while to get there.
It does. But it's the sort of hang in there. I will tell you that I've talked quite a bit on my podcast about the beginning of your divorce and curating your team, pulling together the people who are there to support you. And a lot of my divorce attorney colleagues are not fond of the fact that I say, you should not hire a divorce attorney first. You should hire a coach first. I do think for most people, and I will say especially in the gray divorce situation, when everything is heightened, that a divorce coach, a gray divorce coach, somebody with your expertise and understanding is really critical for those early days, as we've talked about, those middle days, as we've talked about, and now sort of getting even into the days beyond. But starting with the coach to help you. And one thing I want my listeners to know, you do work with people and you have a wonderful offer for some very lucky listeners out there. So before we leave, I want to make sure that we talk about that because it goes along with exactly what I was just saying. It's a gift to yourself to get yourself a coach.
I'm in agreement with that. I think that coaching is for those people, in this generation of gray divorce.
Yes.
A lot of people aren't familiar with coaching. And so coaching is looking out the windshield. We're moving forward. And what do you want your life to look like? What's stopping you from having that? And we work through all of that. I really try to meet people where they are. Just like you said, there are people that are deciding whether they want a divorce. There are people that asked for the divorce. Right. They didn't want it. Told. Yeah. And I even do work with people on completely the other end. They're already like living their life, but they're noticing that they've got some thoughts looking back to the past and they just want to let those go in some way, that's not serving them well. So talking through that. So I am honored to walk with women through this transition. It is so exciting for me to meet someone at the beginning of this process and see where they go. I try to offer tools that meet them where they are in a helpful way and strategize how to get through this. I think that's exactly, why coaching is so important. How do you build your team? Who needs to be on your team? What do you need to get through this? And so we just talk through all of that, and it's someone in your corner that's an objective someone. I noticed for me, I think my friends got just worn out because I was talking to them so much. I got tired of hearing myself. So this is a place that someone can kind of come and really put it all out there, and we figure out how to continue on this path and keep them moving forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned that I think it's 5 listeners will be able to get an hour session with you. Is that correct?
That's correct. So on my website, you can sign up. The first 5 people that sign up, they can book a free consultation with me, but you will get we can talk for an hour, just about anything, where you are, what you want. We can just talk through a little bit so you can see what it is like to have a coach.
I think it's a wonderful gift. And even in that moment of when you need some connection with another person who gets it and understands. You mentioned the friends, the family, the friends get a little tired of hearing it. The other thing I want people to understand about friends and family is as well-meaning as they are, and they love you.
Yeah.
They don't want to see you hurting.
Right.
They're not professionals in the space. It's the same as you might not want to get your legal advice from them. You might want to get your support and coaching support and accountability and person who's going to help you with the tools. You want to get that from a professional. So it's a gift to be able to speak to someone and get that idea of what that support feels like.
Absolutely. Again, it's just a real privilege and honor, and I'm passionate about this work. I again couldn't have predicted all of this
5 years ago.
Never.
Did you think you'd be sitting in that chair right now talking
Never.
about this? Right?
Never. And have just met incredible people on this journey. So hopefully, I look forward to hearing from people and being able to speak with them about how they're navigating this.
Yeah, well, and we'll have to talk again on the other side once you've had a chance to talk to some of the people, and we'll do a follow-up episode to talk about that if you'd like, and hear some more about your journey and how you're helping clients as you move through this space. I am so glad that we got to reconnect after meeting in New York when we taped the other show. This has been wonderful to have you here and to hear more of your story, but also how you've taken that experience along with all of your other lived experience, which is really what's, this is a compilation of your life experience that you've brought to the point where you are today. And to share that with us all has really been a wonderful gift to us. And I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I'm so happy to be here and to share it. So thank you.
Before we wrap up this episode, I want to pull together a few of the golden nuggets from the conversation. First, gray divorce is not just a legal ending. It is a profound emotional and identity shift, especially when decades of life have been built with another person. Feeling disoriented, overwhelmed, or deeply grief-stricken is not a failure. It is a natural response to real loss. Second, rituals matter. Whether it is taking off your wedding rings, leaving a family home, or marking the end of a chapter with intention, creating moments of closure helps your nervous system process change and allows you to move forward without carrying everything unresolved. Third, emotional regulation is foundational. Before you can make decisions about the future, your body and nervous system need a sense of safety. Basic anchors like sleep, nourishment, movement, and connection are not luxuries. They are essential. And finally, how you walk through divorce matters, not just for you, but for the people who love you and are watching. Integrity, intention, and self-compassion can coexist with grief, anger, and fear. You do not have to choose one or the other. Everyone, if today's conversation resonated with you, I have a companion blog for this episode titled Rituals for Grief in Gray Divorce, Why Closure Matters, along with a simple downloadable resource to help you think through what closure might look like for you. You'll be able to find both linked in the show notes and on the podcast website at divorceandbeyondpod.com. I wanted to thank Maryjane Sweet for sharing her story so openly and so thoughtfully. Her work supporting women through gray divorce is grounded in lived experience, compassion, and deep respect for this transition. You can learn more about Maryjane and her work at maryjanesweet.com, all one word. Follow her on Instagram at The Gray Divorce Coach, all one word, and explore her offerings directly through her website. All of those links will be in the show notes as well. So thank you, Maryjane, for being here, and thank you to all of you. If you're navigating gray divorce right now, know that you do not have to rush your healing, and you do not have to do it alone. I'll see you next time on Divorce and Beyond. If today's episode helped you see something more clearly, take a moment to reflect on one insight you can carry forward, one decision you can approach differently, one next step that feels more grounded. Divorce is not a failure. It is about facing reality and choosing a healthier path forward for yourself and your family. You can find show notes, trusted divorce resources, and expert guidance at divorceandbeyondpod.com. If this episode was helpful, follow the podcast and share it with someone who may need support right now. I'm Susan Guthrie. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back next time with more clarity, insight, and support on Divorce and Beyond.